Good afternoon and welcome to the National Capital Planning Commission's July 6th, 2003 open session. And first, Ms. Coster, would you please take the roll?
Certainly. Commissioner Cozart?
Here.
Commissioner McMahon?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Stidham?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Argo? Commissioner Argo?
I'm here.
Great, thank you. Vice Chair Hewlett?
Present.
Thank you. Chair Goodman?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Green?
Here.
Commissioner Wright?
Here.
Commissioner Dixon?
Here.
Commissioner Cash?
Present.
Thank you. And Commissioner Giacchetti?
Present.
I'll note that Marcel Acosta, the Executive Director, and Schuyler, the General Counsel, and Diane Sullivan with the Urban Design and Plan Review Division are also in the meeting.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Coster. And noting the presence of a quorum, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today's meeting is being live streamed. It'll be available in a few days as a video on NCPC's website. And if there's no objection, the agenda as posted is adopted as the order of business. And now we can please play, staff, if you could please play the Pledge of Allegiance, and I ask everyone to join.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. NCPC will continue to conduct our meetings online until renovations in the commission chambers are complete. And I want to share how we conduct commission business. Following staff presentations and any other testimony, we ask for a motion and a second as appropriate. During the commission deliberations, I do use the round robin format to ask each commissioner if they have a contribution or any comments. And as a reminder, during deliberations, all commissioners should be on video at that time, unless you're experiencing technical difficulties. At other times, when the commissioners wish to be recognized, they can unmute and ask to be recognized. So next, agenda item number 2 is the report of the chair. And I want to share with everyone that we are very pleased to have received correspondence from Representative James Comer, the chair of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee and an ex officio member of this commission. And he has advised me of his alternates, Ryan Giacchetti, who's with us today, Peter Warren, and Lauren Hassett. I'm really pleased that Ryan is here and has been able to join the commission. And Ryan, I just want to ask if you had anything you'd like to say.
Just wanted to, oh, sorry. Yes, Ryan Giacchetti, counsel at the committee. Just wanted to say thank you very much for the warm welcome. I've really appreciated the opportunity to get to know you and your staff and participate in many of these briefings along the way. Looking forward to working with everyone at this great organization as well as the rest of these commissioners to find paths forward. And thank you very much.
Well, we're very, very happy you've joined us, Ryan, so welcome. Also, on Thursday, June 15th, the Department of the Army hosted several officials from the Department of Defense, the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, the Department of the Interior, and the National Capital Planning Commission to tour the General Officers' Quarters at Fort McNair. The purpose of the tour was to discuss programmatic solutions to the management of the pre-1919 historic housing Army-wide. As a reminder, the commission reviewed the draft master plan for Joint Base Meyer-Henderson Hall that includes Fort McNair and provided comments at the February commission meeting. A main point of discussion was the language in the FY23 National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, requiring demolition of 3 general officers' quarters in addition to the potential impact of sea level rise on those quarters. The tour was an important first step, I believe, in discussing how to address the significant needs of this historic housing, and I look forward to contributing to future discussions. So I just want you all to be aware of that, and I'm happy to speak to any of you about that at any time. And agenda item number 3 is report of the executive director, Mr. Acosta.
Thank you, Chair Goodman, and good afternoon. We welcome Mohammed Hadera, who had joined our staff as an information technology member. Mohammed previously served as an IT specialist for the Maryland National Capital Parks and Planning Commission, where he worked with the Montgomery County and Prince George's County Planning Department. Mohammed holds a bachelor's degree in computer network security from the University of Maryland and received several certifications in computer network security. So welcome, Mohammed. You do have a copy of my full report in your packets, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Acosta, and I want to say welcome to Mr. Hadera as well. He's already helped me this morning with some issues with my laptop, so welcome aboard. We look forward to working with you. Does the commission have any questions for Mr. Acosta or have anything to say to Mr. Hadera?
I would just like to say welcome to Mr. Hadera.
Thank you, Betty.
Just it's wonderful to see you, and no questions of Mr. Acosta. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Hewlett. Okay, hearing no further comments or questions, I'm going to move along to agenda item number 4, and that is the legislative update from Ms. Schuyler.
Thank you, Chair Goodman. I do not have anything to report today.
Gosh, okay. Well, I know we have a heavy agenda, so I'm not sad about that. But thank you.
I'm glad I could help out.
I know you are, but agenda item agenda item number 5 is the consent calendar, and there are 2 items on this month's consent calendar. And the first one is the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority's escalator canopy program at various locations around the district. And the second is for the Fort Belvoir North Headquarters Annex in Springfield, Virginia. Are there any questions or discussions about this consent calendar?
I move the consent calendar, Madam Chair.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Ms. Coster, could you confirm the motion and the second and please take a vote by roll?
Yes, I will say I got the motion by Commissioner Dixon. I didn't catch the second.
Hewlett.
Vice Chair Hewlett.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. So to approve the consent calendar, motion by Commissioner Dixon, second by Commissioner Hewlett, and with that, Commissioner Cozart.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner McMahon,
Yes.
Commissioner Stidham,
Yes.
Commissioner Argo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hewlett.
Yes.
Thank you. Chair Goodman.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Dixon,
Yes.
Commissioner Cash,
Yes.
and Commissioner Cicchetti.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Coster. The motion has carried. And so agenda item number 6A is to approve comments on the National 9/11 Pentagon Memorial Visitor Education Center. And today, Ms. Herr is going to be making that presentation. So just a reminder, if you'd like to mute and turn off your videos, we'll hear the presentation from Ms. Herr.
Yes, thank you. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Great. Good afternoon, Chair Goodman and members of the Commission. Arlington National Cemetery, on behalf of the Pentagon Memorial Fund, has submitted concept plans for the 9/11 Pentagon Memorial Visitor Education Center in Arlington, Virginia. As this is a concept review, the focus of today's presentation and analysis is to receive Commission comments and feedback prior to preparation of a more detailed preliminary submission. In this case, the focus of the review is understanding the appropriateness of this project for the site and context, understanding any particularly unique or complex issues that need to be addressed, and identifying any stakeholders that need to be further involved. On September 11th, 2001, terrorists hijacked airliners while in flight with the intent of crashing them into targets in New York City and Washington, D.C. One of those planes, Flight 77, crashed into the Pentagon, killing 184 people. Memorials have been constructed at each site affected by the 9/11 attacks, including the National 9/11 Pentagon Memorial, dedicated in 2008 and noted here. Visitor centers have also been established in both New York City and Shanksville, Pennsylvania, to provide educational exhibitions that tell the story of attacks at their respective locations. To help provide a better understanding of the events at the Pentagon on September 11th, the Pentagon Memorial Fund is proposing to construct the 9/11 Pentagon Memorial Visitor Education Center at the location noted here. The proposed site is located north of I-395 and Washington Boulevard, west of the Pentagon and the Pentagon 9/11 Memorial as noted here. The site, pictured here, slopes downhill from southwest to northeast. The low point of the site is at the corner of Columbia Pike and the on-ramp to Washington Boulevard. The existing Air Force Memorial is located to the west of the site. As the site is under construction, there are no existing trees. The proposed Visitor Education Center is part of the southern expansion of Arlington National Cemetery. The commission previously approved this expansion. The roads in this area are currently under construction as part of the approved Defense Access Road project. As part of these projects, the intersection at Columbia Pike and South Joyce Street and the interchange with Washington Boulevard will be modified. The reconfiguration of these roads will create the site for the proposed project as noted here. The site will be bounded by the realigned Columbia Pike to the north, South Joyce Street to the west, and Washington Boulevard to the east and south. The existing 9/11 Pentagon Memorial is located on the other side of Washington Boulevard. A previous version of the Visitor Education Center was presented to NCPC staff and the Commission of Fine Arts. The building was originally proposed at the top of the hill toward the southern end of the site, with a large parking lot extending between the building and the memorial. NCPC staff and the Commission of Fine Arts commented that the building was too large and prominent given the context adjacent to Arlington National Cemetery. The parking lot and its location gave too much preference to vehicles. The materials did not coordinate with Arlington National Cemetery, and there wasn't enough attention paid to the pedestrian experience. This is the current proposed site plan. The plan includes a 50,000 square foot visitor education center and a 100 space parking lot. The applicant has significantly modified the design based on feedback from staff and the Commission of Fine Arts. And while additional refinement is necessary, staff recommends the commission approves the comments contained in the report. I will now review the details of the proposal. The site is designed so visitors traveling by bus, car, or bike arrive via one of two right-in, right-out entrances to the site, one on South Joyce Street, the other on Columbia Pike. The two entries lead via a wide entry drive and bus drop-off to the parking lot and building entry. The parking lot of 100 spaces is less than the previous iteration and has shifted south of the building. At the northern end of the parking lot is a parking lot landing, pictured here in this rendering. Staff suggests the commission recommends the applicant continue to minimize the parking areas and differentiate these spaces, especially the areas dedicated to the visitor experience, which are currently designed as part of the parking lot with no connection to the building and building yard, and requests the applicant submit the rationale for the amount of visitor parking, differentiating between the spaces for the museum and spaces for the conference rooms. Across the wide entry drive to the north is the proposed Visitor Education Center building. Upon entering the building from the parking lot, visitors will descend through a glazed atrium on access with the memorial via a staircase to the ground floor and the main exhibit space. As recommended by staff and the Commission of Fine Arts, the building is integrated into the existing topography, which minimizes the height of the building and gives deference to the Arlington National Cemetery. The outline of the previous design is visible here, higher on the hill. Additionally, locating the building at the bottom of the hill closest to the memorial emphasizes the building as the primary use of the site. The main entry facing the parking area is the second floor because it is designed into the topography. The visitor center will include exhibits and programs to engage visitors and the public as to the effects and broad impact of the tragedy from a variety of perspectives, including details of the individuals who died, the response from the United States and partner countries in the days, weeks, and months that followed, as well as the design of the memorial and its significance. There are also comfort amenities such as restrooms, shelter for visitors, a cafe, a bookstore, and a multi-purpose conference center space, which will be used for both daytime conferences and evening events. After touring the exhibition, the visitor exits through the doors on the north facade and proceeds to the memorial itself. Walking to the memorial requires crossing Columbia Pike, the on-ramp to Washington Boulevard westbound, walking under the overpass of Washington Boulevard, crossing the on-ramp to Washington Boulevard eastbound, walking along the Pentagon secure fence, and then into the memorial area, as noted here by the red line. Visitors traveling by foot can also enter the building from the memorial facing entrance on the first floor. Staff recommends the commission requests the applicant coordinate with applicable local and federal transportation agencies to ensure the route between the visitor center to the memorial prioritizes pedestrian safety over vehicular level of service. In addition, staff suggests the commission requests for preliminary review that the applicant share progress with the commission regarding the proposed improvements for the route between the memorial and the new visitor center. The proposed landscape design for the visitor center is intended to be sympathetic to its context and proximity to Arlington National Cemetery. The applicant has indicated that they created exterior places for people to gather, pause, and reflect. Sidewalks will be installed around the perimeter of the site, as well as through the site to promote safe pedestrian access and connection. Visitors arriving by bus, car, or bike will be directed to the parking lot. Staff notes that there are very few trees included on the east side of the site against the Washington Boulevard on-ramp, and suggests the commission recommends additional trees to provide shade and better blend the site in with the existing tree canopy of Arlington National Cemetery. For the proposed building design, the applicant has taken design inspiration from the existing structures and design elements at Arlington National Cemetery. The proposed proportions of the building are inspired by the forms at Arlington National Cemetery, as indicated here. The applicant also looked to the existing 9/11 Pentagon Memorial as inspiration. The proposed building is broken down into a series of repeating 30-foot modules that, when viewed in plan, are intended to reflect the repeating benches of the memorial. The building's roof form, seen from the air, makes reference to Flight 77 in the form of 2 sevens. The proposed materials include precast concrete, glazing, and metal that is inspired by the character of Arlington National Cemetery. Staff notes that the proposed design is conceptual, and the applicant has stated that they will make additional refinements to the building design based on NCPC and CFA reviews, and suggests the commission recommends the applicant continue to refine the design of the building, and in particular, to reevaluate the building entry and southwest building facade with a focus on creating a sense of hierarchy and prominence that will help guide visitors. To consider avoiding literal design gestures, which may be inadvertently limiting and unnecessary given the setting and purpose. To demonstrate through studies and renderings how the building material palette will complement the established character of Arlington National Cemetery. This concludes my presentation. I have incorporated recommendations throughout the presentation, so I will not read them again, but I've included them here for your reference. Overall, the commission supports the concept plan, but there are several areas of concern that are noted in the recommendations that will need to be addressed before the next submission. Thank you, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have. Jim Lachek from the Pentagon Memorial Fund is here with a brief statement, and members of the design team at Fentress Architects and EHT Traceries are available to answer questions as well. Thank you.
My name is Jim Lachek, and I thank you for the opportunity to talk about this project. My brother was killed on the Pentagon on 9/11, and has been stated, and as people have mentioned, this is the only attack site, even though we were the first memorial created, the only attack site without a visitor education center. And the Pentagon Memorial Fund is working to change this. Many visitors, especially children born after the tragedy, have no memory of 9/11 and don't fully understand its significance and how our country responded after the attacks on 9/11. This is what we're trying to accomplish with, and our mission with creating the Visitor Education Center. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here.
I would like to thank Ms. Herr and Mr. Leachek. I want to express my sympathy to you for your loss. That's a terrible tragedy. I remember the day and had friends in the DC area, had a person I knew on that flight as well who passed. And friends, in New York. And it was certainly a day that we'll never forget. And I'm really pleased to see this memorial and education center going forward. So thank you for your work on that. Do commissioners have any questions for Ms. Herr or Mr. Leachek? Well, hearing none, we're going to open this up for discussion by the commission. I'd like commissioners to please turn on your cameras, and I'd entertain a motion to approve the comments made for the 9/11 Pentagon Memorial Visitor Education Center.
I
So
move
moved.
approval, Madam Chair. Okay. Or second.
Okay, I have a motion
I'll
and
do
a
the
second.
Yeah.
Okay, it's moved by Vice Chair Hewlett and seconded by Commissioner Dixon. Okay, yes. It's been moved and seconded, and so now we can have discussion. Thank you. And I'm going to begin with, again, the round robin process. And if you can keep your webcams on during this process, I'd appreciate it. So I'll start with Commissioner McMahon, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Mr. Leachek, good afternoon again. We haven't seen you in a while. Such an important addition to the National Capital Region and the area, and a continuing memorial, and as Mr. Leachek has said, a continuing way to educate the people of America about what happened that day and its impact, especially at the Pentagon. Lots of many challenges in terms of both siting and then development of selected sites over the years. I'm glad to see we've got to this point, and this will be, I think, a fine addition to the Arlington area and our memorials as the foundation moves forward with this development. Other than that, I've got no comments.
Thank you, Commissioner McMahon. Commissioner Stidham.
Yes, thank you for the presentation, and I look forward to this as it moves forward. Just a couple comments. I think the visitor experience walking from the visitor center to the memorial and vice versa is very important. And it seems just from what was in the EDR and the presentation rather unsafe. So I hope that when you come back to us, you'll bring some additional investigations into how to better improve that experience over crossing both ways. Because I think that is part of either enjoying the visitor center or experience memorials, that walk in between. And it should be contemplative, I think, in thinking about it and less vehicle focused. So I urge you to think about that. I really appreciate moving the building. I think that made a big difference because it was too much on the hillside and too dominant on the landscape, and it really should be subservient to the cemetery. So nice job, and I look forward to seeing more. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stidham. Commissioner Argo.
I probably, I don't have any substantial initial comments. I'm really happy to see where we are with this, and moving forward, that we are careful to incorporate the comments that we hear, especially from those that associate themselves, more directly with this memorial. But really happy to see where we are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Argo. Vice Chair Hewlett.
Yes. First of all, I wanted to say to Mr. Leachek, my sincere condolences. I know a lot of time has passed, but it's something you can't ever get over. So please accept my heartfelt condolences. I want to thank Ms. Herr for her presentation as well. And I just wanted to say, this is so very important. I venture to say, I don't want to be too presumptuous, but I venture to say that most of us participating in this meeting remember. and we were knowledgeable. We've were riveted to the news. It touched us personally. We've lost people. I lost people in New York. And notwithstanding how much we read, how much we heard, when you go to these exhibits, you learn so much more and you feel it with tremendous depth. So when I went to the visitor center in New York, I almost didn't go. I said, well, okay, you know most of what there is to know. And I was so wrong. I was so wrong. You learn about each individual who perished. I mean, they have something on each individual. You learn so much, and it's important for us to never, ever forget. And like someone said earlier, there are people who were not even born yet. They have to know. They have to know so we can stay vigilant and never have this happen again. So I so appreciate this effort. And I too would like to echo the safe connectivity between the visitor center and educational center to the memorial, because it just would enhance it that much more. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hewlett. Commissioner Green.
Thank you. I appreciate well, first of all, this is an incredibly important monument, and it's very important to see this through, and I'm looking forward to its completion. And I guess my comments are just on the theme of context and reverence. And I think as the monument is developed further, I appreciate the distance that it's traversed to get to where it is. And I would really like to see that sense of reverence continued in the form and materials of the building, and in that contextual connection to the rest of Arlington, so it doesn't feel that it's something separate and apart. And that continues to the walking connection between them, that one could come to this visitor center and then walk to the extent possible in a way to absorb what you've just learned and take that with you over to Arlington, and so that walk is fully a part of that experience. And again, just want to thank you for the adaptations that you've made to the previous comments, and look forward very much to seeing the completion of this important monument. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Green. Commissioner Wright.
Well, that was quite a letter from the CFA, and I don't know that I can add to it, but maybe put a little more body language on it. The location, the site, moving the building vastly improved it, but I guess the only place where I part company from the EDR is really, this is not a matter of refinement on the building. The context, the massing, the materials, you need to rethink altogether. It's to me, it seems wildly inappropriate for the site, even though you've made it smaller and it's sinking into the landscape. It looks like an industrial building. It could be one of those storage unit places. And that's just not dignified enough for the setting or the purpose. And I urge you to not refine, but really rethink now that you have a site. Especially, it occurs to me, if there's only so much design can do, I don't know how you're going to overcome traversing these major thoroughfares in a way that, as Ms. Stidham was describing, to create a contemplative journey. And I think in some cases you're going to find that people just don't bother to go down to the memorial, which is not necessarily that puts more of an emphasis on the importance of this building and its dignity and its sort of, I mean, I'll leave it to others to talk about what interpretation. I'm sure you have big plans for interpreting the memorial inside this building. But I think it's really important that this be well, again, it's context. I think the materials need rethinking. And I think the 77 on the roof is just too clever by half. We need to stop being so literal and think that that people are gonna get that. And then what ends up happening is and I've seen this a million times, we all have, where we get an idea conceptually and then we kind of like turn ourselves into a pretzel to make it work. And that's what this feels like. And I'm not sure it's really worth the effort. So I would urge the design team to look at the new site and start again. Because the building is it's just not dignified enough. And it's the connotations of industrial use are inescapable.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Cash. I'm sorry, Commissioner Dixon. I apologize, Arrington.
Okay. I want to kind of join Commissioner Wright. She always tells you like it is. I think she's right about this. I think it's worthy of some consideration by the further work on this. Also, always concerned about solar and energy conservation issues and whether they would be able to be incorporated. That maybe, I don't know, may not fit in, but just always want to do that if we can. Lastly, I do have a question I'd like to ask. What about the parking access, driving access? Because we had discussion of some security measures on the street for cars. Is that going to be a part of the discussion?
I think we could ask for Ms. Herr to make comment, or Mr. Lachek.
Well, the building does have, because it is a defense building, it does have a perimeter security requirements. Some of those details were included in the submission, but more detail will be provided at future submissions. So there are some perimeter hardening things that will be required. We would like, obviously, those to be designed into the landscape.
Now, my question goes to the cars that will be coming in. Will they have to be cleared before they enter this area, or will they just turn into it off the main boulevard there?
I don't believe there will be vehicle screening to park in this parking lot, no.
Okay.
I do want to say these are important questions, and we will have return visits from our staff and representatives, Mr. Lachek, in the future. So I look forward to as well hearing more. Do you have any other comments, Mr. Commissioner Dixon?
No, I'm thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Sure, you're welcome. Commissioner Cash.
Well, thanks so much. First, I do want to associate myself with all the comments about the tragedy. I mean, that was a day, literally a year before I moved out here. And I just remember being glued to the TV, and my first drive into DC was on the 1-year anniversary. So, so I want to associate myself with those comments. I also want to associate myself with Commissioner Wright's comments on the design. But I do also want to throw out what I think would be maybe food for thought as you come back to us. I am concerned about the size of the parking lot for a site like that. I just happened, because we had the slide in there that showed the visitor centers in Shanksville and in New York. I went back and looked at the Pennsylvania site, and they have kind of about the same number of parking places as this does. And that's a place you can only get to by driving. So I think anything you can do to reduce the number of parking spaces might give you a little bit more flexibility when you're going back and looking at the design of the space. And I think that one thing that struck me is, as someone that's lived in DC for over 20 years, I've never actually made it down to the 9/11 Memorial or to the Air Force Memorial because they are incredibly so inaccessible. And I've heard a lot of comments here about just the pedestrian experience traversing either from the metro or just from the visitor center to the memorial itself. So maybe as you're looking at this, because this is such a tough site with all these roads, maybe it would be great if, as part of the ongoing operations, there was a shuttle bus that takes you from the Pentagon Metro to the memorial itself, to the visitor center, and actually continues on in partnership with the Navy Memorial just to be able to get out there, because they're all kind of in this nice little line. So maybe just other options like that can reduce the need for parking, because there is so much parking around the site, like even private parking right there in Pentagon City. So if there's some other better way to connect people from parking and transit and to get them moving around these really important memorial sites that are incredibly difficult to traverse right now, I think that could lessen your need for parking, give you more flexibility on the design, and address a lot of those pedestrian safety issues. And I know it's not cheap, but I think that access to these memorials is really important. We do it around internally within Arlington Cemetery, so we should look at it at something here. So just some food for thought and associating myself with those other comments. But I do think that some good progress has been made since the site selection. So I thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Cash. Commissioner Giacchetti, comments on this design or program?
No substantive comments. Just wanted to say I'd like to echo what my fellow commissioners have put much more eloquently than I ever could, the importance of this project, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Giacchetti. Commissioner Kozart.
Yes, I also want to associate myself with the comments of the commissioners about both the importance and the impact of this memorial. Thank you all for your work on it, and appreciate the work of Mr. and others on the staff related to this. I do want to encourage taking very seriously the pushback of Commissioner Wright, the respectful pushback there. And also the encouragement of Commissioner Cash around transportation and transit and other ways of getting to the site, and Commissioner Stidham as it relates to opportunities to connect safely the pedestrian experience between the education center and the memorial. Understanding that's a significant undertaking, but certainly worthwhile given the importance of the education center.
And thank you, Commissioner Kozart. I too will echo my fellow commissioners' comments, but most importantly, just say that this is a uniquely significant project, and for all the reasons I think that have been expressed, and it's exciting to see it in front of us, and we look forward to future iterations or additions to the design progress. I would like to specifically echo the thoughts of security options between the two sites, the memorial and the education center. I think that's always important, but also having worked at a national museum myself, every trail, every pathway is an opportunity to tell a story. So I also agree with the comments that there is an opportunity, an incredible opportunity to connect the two through an experiential design on that path. I also want to say access is critically important. I agree with those who've tried to achieve connection with some of those memorials by the Pentagon. I've tried that as well. And, I just think we're still on a blank sheet in some ways when there's a beginning, but there's opportunity for additional growth in the design and the function of the space. And wanted to echo my colleagues' comments, but congratulate you on bringing this now and moving forward with real progress so far. And unless there are any further comments or questions, Ms. Koster, could you please take the roll call?
Certainly. Again, the motion was made by Commissioner Hewlett, seconded by Commissioner Dixon. With that, Commissioner Kozar?
Yes.
Commissioner McMahon?
Yes.
Commissioner Stidham?
Yes.
Commissioner Argo?
Yes.
Vice Chair Hewlett?
Yes.
Commissioner Green?
Yes.
And gosh, I have skipped Chair Goodman. How did that happen?
Yes, that's
Thank
fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Dixon?
Yes.
Commissioner Cash?
Yes.
And Commissioner Giacchetti?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Koster. The motion has carried. Agenda item 6B is to approve comments on the concept plans for the draft master plan for the University of the District of Columbia Van Ness campus. And we're going to hear from Mr. Weil.
Thank you very much. Can you see my screen and hear me?
Yes.
Mike, you are not quite, you're still in a presentation mode on your screen.
Okay.
I think if you go to the bottom, you might be able to select the, that's not any. Maybe the next one over.
Okay, hold on one second.
So if you click on the top, display settings. All the way on the top, all the way on the top. I tried.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah, that's good.
Great, thank you. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Okay, thank you. I apologize for that. Good afternoon, Chair Goodman and members of the commission. The University of the District of Columbia has submitted a 2020 update to its campus plan for review by NCPC under a 1972 jurisdictional transfer agreement, which grants our commission approval authority over all UDC campus plan updates. The UDC submission is in for draft review, and our comments focus on development sustainability, landscaping, and transportation and travel demand management as reflected in the UDC plan. UDC was officially formed in 1975 when Congress authorized the consolidation of 3 schools, the District of Columbia Teachers College, Federal City College, the Washington Technical Institute. However, the school's roots extend back to the Minor Normal School for African American Girls, founded by Myrtilla Minor in 1851, and the Washington Normal School for White Girls, which was founded in 1873. The Washington Technical Institute, which opened in 1968, was the predecessor school that occupied the buildings on the current UDC campus after being vacated by the National Bureau of Standards, which moved out to Gaithersburg, Maryland, and is now known as the National Institutes of Standards and Technology, or NIST. Prior to the current 2020 update, our commission approved the previous UDC plan in December 2011, which focused on improving student life and supporting the university's sustainability goals and objectives. Leading up to our current review, UDC updated its campus plan in 2020, undergoing its required review and approval by the district's zoning commission in 2021. And as part of that update process, UDC representatives held several meetings with the local ANC, and the university also initiated a UDC community task force, which is scheduled to meet quarterly to discuss issues such as campus planning, student conduct, traffic and parking, construction activity, and any other topics that may require community dialogue. More recently, the Zoning Commission is reviewing a modification to the campus plan that reflects the potential location of a new consolidated district archives building on the UDC campus, which I will present to our commission immediately following this presentation. The UDC's Van Ness campus is situated in Northwest Washington, D.C., encompassing approximately 21 acres and 11 university-related buildings, which are designed in the new brutalist style of architecture. The UDC campus is bounded by Yuma Street to the north, Connecticut Avenue to the east, Van Ness Street to the south, and the International Court and part of the International Chancery Complex to the west. Here's the plat that memorializes the jurisdictional transfer from the United States General Services Administration to the District of Columbia for use of the campus property for educational purposes. And as the property is still owned by the federal government under the agreement, NCPC maintains its approval authority over campus plan updates. With our approval role, NCPC has formal review responsibilities under the National Environmental Policy Act and Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. And we have initiated our formal 106 review process with the District State Historic Preservation Office, and we will complete our formal NEPA and 106 review requirements prior to the final campus plan submission. For individual site and building projects on the UDC campus, however, NCPC has advisory review authority, as with all district projects located outside of the downtown central area. And we articulate these points through our final executive director's recommendation. The campus's academic core area is located in the south, surrounding Denard Plaza, which is a large hardscaped gathering spot and campus focal point, connecting multiple buildings and acting as a key organizing element for the campus. And here are the university's surrounding academic and administration buildings with academic programs that include the UDC College of Arts and Sciences, the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, School of Business and Public Administration, School of Mathematics and Life Sciences, and other student services that include financial aid, health services, and career services. To the east of the core area, located at the intersection of Connecticut Avenue and Van Ness Street, and adjacent to the Van Ness UDC Metro Rail Station, is the UDC Student Center, which our commission approved in 2011. The recognizable building gives UDC a visible presence along the Connecticut Avenue corridor and serves as a symbol of sustainability based on its LEED Platinum design. North of the campus core area, buildings 46W and 46E house UDC's performing arts program with an auditorium, music, dance, and theater space, and an outdoor amphitheater. Moving further to the north and west are UDC's athletic facilities, which include an 80,000 plus square foot Dr. Edwin Bancroft Henderson Sports Complex, an NCAA regulation soccer field, and an outdoor tennis complex. And finally, Building 43 currently operates as the university's central power and heating plant. A majority of the university's on-campus parking is currently provided by a below-grade 3-level garage with 715 spaces for use by UDC staff, students, and visitors, and with direct access to the south from Van Ness Street. Here's an aerial view of the campus looking toward the northwest, with the university's prominent student center in the foreground and the UDC Athletic Center complex in the far background. And here's another view of the campus looking directly north. The university is the only urban land grant institution of higher learning in the country. UDC seeks to foster an equitable and inclusive campus culture that intentionally values all students' personal, intellectual, and academic growth. And we note this important guiding institutional principle in our review comments. Existing UDC buildings range in height from 2 to 8 stories, with lower buildings at 2 to 3 levels situated in the northern part of the campus, and taller buildings with 4 to 8 stories located in the southern campus and along Connecticut Avenue. 3 buildings, number 52, 48, 4250, and 4225, are university related, but are not located on campus property that was part of the 1972 transfer. Building 52 houses the UDC David A. Clark School of Law, and UDC recently purchased Building 4250 and will use this space to help meet future university administrative and academic needs. UDC currently leases Building 4225 as part of its Feed the Family food pantry and several other school initiatives, and the university plans to also use this as swing space during future Building 4250 renovations, which are planned for the year 2024. Surrounding the campus, Intelsat's former headquarters building is located adjacent to the campus's southeast corner, and the International Chancery Center, with nearly 20 diplomatic buildings, is located to the south and west of the campus. Further to the north and west are low-density single-family dwellings, and to the east, across Connecticut Avenue, are medium-density commercial buildings and high-density residential apartment buildings. Regarding transit accessibility, UDC has the benefit of its adjacent location next to Metro Rail, and there are multiple Metro bus routes that operate along Connecticut Avenue, Van Ness Street, and Yuma Street, giving the location a variety of travel options. A look at UDC's existing mode shares, both for students and staff, reflects the location's relatively good transit accessibility, and we note this as part of our executive director's recommendation. The university sets forth its vision to transform the campus into a flagship institution that will be competitive with other top-tier academic institutions, all while continuing to meet the comprehensive educational needs of district residents. The 2020 plan calls for establishing the UDC campus as a landmark and important economic engine for the city and region alike. The plan cites multiple sustainability, space optimization, infrastructure improvement, and student life-focused objectives, which are meant to guide future campus development. And based on these objectives, UDC proposes a variety of projects over the next 10 years between 2020 and 2029, which are shown here in this graphic that is taken directly from the UDC plan update. In total, the plan includes 160,000 square feet of potential new building construction, of which 120,000 square feet represents future on-campus student housing, which is an institutional priority. And the remaining space, 40,000 square feet, would consist of potential vertical additions to existing campus buildings. And I will now walk you through some of the more notable projects over the next few slides. Starting with student housing, we can see two potential sites in the plan, Site A in the north, which would consist of a new 4-story dorm constructed over the UDC outdoor tennis complex. And a second option would be to convert Building 44 into a new dormitory space. UDC would like to decommission its central power plant, which is shown here as Building 43, and repurpose the building into new academic or administrative space, along with a potential additional level added to the building. Another option would be to refurbish buildings 32 and 42, which are conjoined into new academic and or administrative space. And this project would also add an additional level to the building. The plan shows the student center with a new future cafeteria, and recent interior renovations were just completed to accommodate a new data center. UDC plans to convert the existing open field in the southwestern part of its campus into a new athletic field located immediately adjacent to the south of its existing outdoor field to the north. And finally, the 2020 update references multiple potential development options for Building 41, which is only partially used today as daycare and academic space. And I will review the current proposal for this site as a new archive building immediately following this presentation. In our final executive director's recommendation, we do note the current UDC plan describes multiple potential development options for Building 41, including its repurposing as a new student housing or academic space, or another option would be to add on to the existing building for its future use as a new consolidated city archive facility. However, as the current proposal includes the demolition of Building 41 and construction of a new archive building on the site, we recommend that UDC update its campus plan to reflect this proposal and to eliminate the plan's references to other potential development alternatives. And this should be done prior to submitting the final UDC campus plan for our final review. The university views itself as a leader in environmental sustainability, and sustainability is a core value of the 2020 plan, with projects that include stormwater management improvements, such as reducing hardscaped area, increasing pervious paving, and narrowing sidewalks. Energy efficiency improvements with better building performance monitoring, designing all new construction and substantial renovations to meet a LEED Silver standard, and future phase out of the university's central heating plan. The 2020 plan includes 70,000 square feet of new green roof installations across 5 buildings and 6 rooftop solar arrays as depicted here in this campus plan update graphic. 2 campus buildings already have green roofs, both Building 44 and Building 56, which is the Student Center. And the Student Center also has currently has rooftop PV solar panels as well. UDC plans to expand its existing geothermal field to work toward its net zero energy goal. And this expansion would be done as part of the UDC's plan to develop a new Southwest athletic field. And this expanded capacity would help reduce the need for the university's power plant and allow for its eventual redevelopment. The university has a goal to increase the tree canopy area on its campus to meet the city's 40% canopy area goal, along with other initiatives set forth through the district's Sustainability 2.0 plan. Staff acknowledges these improvements by recommending commission support for UDC's planned green roof, PV array, and other sustainability-related projects. And we also encourage UDC to plant pollinator plants on its campus to help support local area eco and food systems. In total, the UDC plan identifies the need to rehabilitate most of its on-campus building space with several potential building additions, 1 potential new dorm building, 5 new rooftop solar installations, and 4 new green roof installations, all to help UDC meet its future programming and sustainability goals. And we summarize these future projects in the final executive director's recommendation. In addition, we encourage the university to commit to a higher LEED goal, either gold or platinum, for all new construction and major renovations to help UDC achieve its sustainability objectives. The 2020 plan shows a number of strategies to improve the look, feel, and character of the campus with new vegetative screening building systems and other contemporary building treatments. And here are some examples from the campus plan which show what these may look like. The plan includes a number of pedestrian improvements with improved wayfinding and exterior building signage, landscaping, public art, campus map kiosks, and new patterned paving materials. And here are some examples of outdoor furniture, trash receptacles, lighting, and future consistent university signage. These strategies would help create a more vibrant on-campus experience, and we express commission support for these strategies to enhance the image of UDC, to enhance student life and learning, and to contribute to the local surrounding community and our final executive director's recommendation. Finally, the university plan includes a number of streetscape and campus edge improvements to help create a more pedestrian and bicycle-friendly experience along the campus frontages, including eliminating vehicular driveways, providing additional landscaping, and working with DDOT to make safety improvements to adjacent intersections. In terms of the district's future transportation plan, known as MOVE DC, the UDC campus plan does include multiple strategies and goals, which are consistent with the plan's focus on travel sustainability. And we include comments that support UDC's effort to encourage sustainable travel for its staff, students, and visitors. We note the university's laudable existing mode shares, and we encourage UDC to continue to work with DDOT to explore new travel demand management strategies in an effort to expand its transportation management plan. In terms of future coordination, we include a requirement for UDC to submit responses for each coordinating committee comment, with comments received from the Department of Energy and Environment, DDOT, and Commission of Fine Arts, as well as a tree plan that identifies additional tree planting locations. And this information would be provided as part of the final UDC campus plan submission to NCPC. And we also include a request for the applicant to coordinate the plan with the Department of State in order to ensure that any unintentional adverse impacts to the Chancery Center may be resolved prior to the final plan submission. So with that, here's the executive director's recommendation, which is divided over the next 4 slides. However, I will not go through each point as I have already summarized our comments throughout the course of my presentation. And before I conclude, I would like to introduce Mr. Javier Duchan, who is the Vice President of Facilities and Real Estate Management at the University of the District of Columbia, and he and other representatives are now available for questions by the Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We're open to questions and comments.
Well, I do want to thank Mr. Weil, and also Mr. Duchamp, and I'm not sure, but there could be, I think, other resource people here. I'd like to identify them: Brian Farrell and Scott Texiera from Hartman Cox Architects, Lopez Matthews, Executive Office, the Mayor, and Meredith Moldenauer from Cozen O'Connor are listed as possibly being here as resources for the discussion. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, Michael, for the presentation. And do the commissioners have any questions on this project?
I do, Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Dixon.
First of all, I appreciate the presentation. I have a historical connection with this, the school, so I'm very excited. One thing I wonder, though, I'm always questioning, I'm not sure someone can answer it here, but what the comparison of green roofs versus sustainable solar paneling roofs? I know the mix is valuable, but I'm wondering what the different payoff, different comparisons would be. Can anyone answer that? And rather than have a green roof, if you had more solar paneling, that kind of an approach.
So I'm gonna give it a stab. Thank you for the question. Since these buildings are, built in the 70s, not all roofs are structurally adequate to support the weight of green roofs. So as we analyze the weight of these options, we need to balance as well. Do we do one, or do we go with the other? So our approach at this point is we're focusing on solar panels to the newer roofs, and we are approaching the new options, the new buildings in general, as potential opportunities for green roofs.
Yeah, well, I think that the green roofs are great, but you say they require more. Maybe the roofs have to accommodate the weight of them, whereas solar doesn't maybe carry that weight restriction and maybe easier. So it seems to me that maybe lean towards the solar paneling. Is that not correct?
For existing buildings, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, and future buildings could be designed to accommodate sustainable energy.
Yes, that will be part of the program to analyze for future buildings.
Well, thank you. Also, there has been on occasion, particularly with you all's focus on environment, the connection between the university and the Anacostia River. And at some point, some discussion of having a presence near that river to allow greater attention to environmental river cleanup, that type thing. Would that be something that would be a future consideration, if not one in the plan that would jump a distance? I mean, it would go from where you are now on Connecticut Avenue to our Anacostia River East. Would that be appropriate here, or is this just a little out of reach at the moment?
I don't have enough information at that level of institutional decisions to properly answer that question in this setting at this moment. All I can tell you, we do work very closely with, of course, with the Department of Energy, and with PEPCO and others. But I'm going to leave it there for this session, if that's okay.
We have a major project developing in our Anacostia River East. And this may be a time to consider bringing some part of UDC there, particularly when the rivers all over the country and the world are getting lots of attention and how you clean them. And we're working very hard with the only river that belongs to a community, our city, the Anacostia River. So it'd be good. I know that at one point, one of our mayors suggested that UDC have a presence there, maybe move there, but have a presence there. So I think this is something you need to think about. I also have some concerns about some of the parking issues that you have and traffic issues in terms of accessing the parking lot and that type thing, whether that is being looked at in the traffic flow and to help with that problem. Is that being looked at or has been looked at?
Yes, in terms of the parking and transportation. I don't know if anybody else in the group wants to address those, but those are key components, especially for the new DC Archives building that we're proposing here to be looked at, of course.
In the
Thank
last
you, Mr.
question,
Doosan.
yeah,
I could just supplement that as well. I mean, as part of our campus master plan, the master plan group included a traffic consultant, and we worked extensively with DDOT to identify transportation demand management plans, which would, decrease the reliability on vehicular uses and encourage additional multimodal transportation uses. Thank you.
very good. The last question I have deals with the archive building. We have a number of historical archiving going on now at Martin Luther King Library, and then the DC has another archiving facility. I'm very excited about the idea that it would be at the university, where it could be both kept and be studied by students. So is there any coordination with these other archiving, historical DC archiving efforts?
Commissioner Dixon, if I could just interject here for a moment. I think that's a very important question, but I think we have that, the archive is another item, another agenda item, so maybe we could.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
If that's all right.
I will stick a pin in it. Thank you.
Okay, well, I will get right back to you, hopefully sooner than later.
All right. And I'd like to move the acceptance of this at proper time.
I'm open to that motion if there are no further questions from other commissioners. Anyone would like to ask our presenters? Yes, Vice Chair Hewlett? No? Okay.
I had a question that's just a peripheral question, literally, and I should know the answer. What is Intelsat being used for now? Is it housing?
So that site is not part of the UDC campus.
I know. I'm just asking, what's the neighboring use?
I don't believe it's been finalized. I think it's still with the developer. We're not aware.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I was just seconding the motion. I didn't realize I was on mute.
I apologize. So there was a motion then.
Madam Chair, I had a question about, if I may.
Yes, you may.
I just had a question about funding for this project, and I'm just curious as to the proportion of federal funding versus other funding that may be sought in the private sector, for example.
So the university is funded by obviously the District of Columbia Council. So no part of this would be a private funded initiative. The entire master campus plan would be funded through the UDC budget.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions? Any more questions? Hearing none. Then we have a motion on the floor, and I believe that Vice Chair Hewlett is seconding that motion made by Commissioner Dixon. So we have a motion and a second. And so now we can discuss this. And again, I'll use the protocol established here by staff and go through the round robin comments from members of the commission. And I'll begin with Commissioner Cozart, please.
So thank you for the presentation. Exciting to hear this development, given how important UDC is as an institution to the district. And so I just want to thank you all for the presentation and thank the staff for their evaluation of this. And I look forward to seeing developments as this goes forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Cozart. Commissioner McMahon.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, great presentation from the staff, a well thought out master plan on the part of the UDC staff, and it's interesting to watch this development in the future as they support the population of the District of Columbia. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner McMahon. Commissioner Stidham.
Thank you for the presentation. Nice master plan. I look forward to as the project moves forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Stidham. Commissioner Argo.
I don't have any additional comments. I'm excited about this. as all of us who are residents of the District of Columbia, and the opportunity also to raise the profile of UDC in an interesting and thoughtful visual way. And the work that's going into this plan, I think will really bear fruit. So that's great to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Argo, and Vice Chair Hewitt, please.
Yeah, I would just say that this is really exciting. I think that's what everyone is saying as well. I mean, what a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And I also wanted to thank Mr. Weil for his very thorough, detailed presentation, not only today, but in the backup that we received, and especially including the history of, as well, because as Commissioner Dixon indicated, the history is so important, and the minor normal school is just one facet of it, but that's just really important to telling our story. And I personally had family members who attended the minor normal school, and it just touches my heart that you took the initiative to go through the whole history and tell the story, because our stories need to be told. So thank you so very much. I think this is a very exciting opportunity for UDC, which means so much.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hewitt. Commissioner Green.
Thank you. This is really important and exciting, and this is a wonderful project, and I think especially so given the disappointing Supreme Court ruling recently that puts so much more emphasis on what our land grant universities need to do for us. And I think it's just so terrific that UDC is really bolstering itself and bolstering its facilities, because I mean that's to me the most important part of education is the ability to uplift and to grow, and it's so exciting to see this. And I just think that's it's a burden that's being pushed back onto land grant schools. And it's exciting to see UDC, moving forward to that with enthusiasm. I'm looking forward to seeing this built out. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Green. Commissioner Wright.
I want to clarify something. Did I hear you also say that this is going LEED silver?
Hello.
That's a question.
I can let Mr. Dushan answer. In their campus plan, they have committed to LEED silver. They do say they are open to LEED gold or platinum in the future if possible, but at this point they've committed to complying with LEED silver.
Okay.
Correct.
So in fairness to the previous applicant, I have to say LEED silver is not aspirational enough. But having said that, I think the plan is a good one. You've got to kind of herd some cats and dogs here and unify this campus that wasn't all built at the same time. And I know that's difficult. Yep. I think it's the student center. Is that the new one that's on Connecticut and
Van Ness?
Yes.
Yes. Very handsome. So I'm confident that the campus is in good hands. I would say that all of these things could converge together, and I mean you're making all the right moves and saying all the right stuff about trees and greening up the campus. It will also, I think, if it's done well by a really good landscape architect, the landscape could be a really powerful unifying factor in knitting the campus together. So you could be killing two birds with one stone. I would urge that you try for at least LEED gold. I know it's hard to do and it's sometimes expensive, but you want to inspire the students who attend the university to do their best. And so I would urge that you look towards getting the gold. But otherwise, I think it's a really solid plan, and you've got some significant constraints that you've seemingly are overcoming.
And thank you, Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Dixon.
Yeah, I also want to emphasize two things. The idea of the greenery just spoke about Commissioner Wright, but I want to make that Denard Plaza is a pretty harsh place in the sun. So with the new furniture that you all are recommending, maybe you can create some kind of shade issues that would help out. I think it'd be hard to grow trees on it because it's, I think, almost all concrete underneath. But that would be an area that could be softer and used better if it has shade. Lastly, I will not let go of the idea of thinking long range, if not short, that we have a presence in our Anacostia River East, and particularly when we got these plans coming out with that land to be used now. I just think it would be very spectacular to have it on that side of the river, and with a focus on river cleanup and that need which exists nationally and globally. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Dixon. Commissioner Cash.
Thanks so much. So I'll just acknowledge, so my day job, I work for the Committee of the Whole on the DC Council, which oversees UDC. So I'm very familiar with their operations and a lot of the great work they've been doing. I think UDC deserves a lot of credit over the last 10 years since the last master plan, and being more creative and looking at like the acquisition of 4250 and some of these buildings that aren't necessarily on the campus, and working very closely with the community on making sure that everyone from the university to the neighbors is working very closely together. So I just want to give kudos for what I think is a well thought out plan looking to the future, now that the university over the last 10 years has been able to do a lot of this work. And I'll just acknowledge for the record, in DC, we see a lot of universities and we look at a lot of campuses. We have Georgetown and GW and all these great private institutions, but this is DC's only, this is our public university here that is a 4-year public university that's open to all DC kids. They don't charge the exorbitant amount of tuition these other places do. And even all these buildings that have been acquired has been done through the city. The city's carrying the debt because the university just can't. So I think they've done a great job with the small resources they have. Every year the council tries to tuck a little bit more money in here to do things like the 4250 acquisition. So I think given the constraints that UDC has, probably uniquely amongst urban public universities in the United States, I think they've done a lot with the little they have, and I congratulate you on that, and we'll continue to work with you all moving forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Cash. Thank you very much. And finally, Commissioner Cicchetti. Any comments?
No, just wanted to say thank you very much for the presentation. No substantive comments on my end.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Cicchetti. And so now I would just like to say everyone's really said what I have been thinking as well. This is an excellent presentation. It was a very thorough master plan. It included, certainly the important issues of climate inequity in the plan, within the plan. And I'm looking forward to future presentations because this is an essential resource, as has been pointed out by so many, to the residents of Washington, D.C. And what a great tradition it has as well. And thank you for including that story in the presentation. So if there are no further comments or questions from the commission, then I will ask Ms. Coster if she could please confirm the motion and the second and take vote. Please.
Thank you. The motion was made by Commissioner Dixon and Vice Chair Hewlett seconded. With that, Commissioner Cozart?
Yes.
Commissioner McMahon?
Yes.
Commissioner Stidham?
Yes.
Commissioner Argo?
Yes.
Vice Chair Hewlett?
Yes.
Chair Goodman?
Yes.
Commissioner Green?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Dixon?
Yes.
Commissioner Cash?
Yes.
And Commissioner Cicchetti?
Yes.
Well, thank you, Ms. Coster. The motion clearly passes, and I'm moving right along to agenda item number 6C. And that is to approve comments on concept plans for the District of Columbia Archives building. So here we are, Commissioner Dixon. Mr. Weil, would you like to begin the presentation on the archives? I just want to remind everyone that we do have representatives available for any additional questions following your presentation. Again, Javier Dusan, Brian Farrell, Scott. I'll go with that, Tiara. Lopez Matthews, and Meredith Moldenauer. So the same resources that were at the prior presentation on the campus. So go ahead. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Thank you so much for your patience. I apologize again. Thank you. Good afternoon again, Chair Goodman and members of the commission. The District Department of General Services, or DGS, has submitted plans for a new DC Archives and Records building. And as a district project outside of the downtown central area, we have an advisory review authority over the project. The applicant submitted the project for a preliminary design review. However, staff is recommending a series of concept level comments based on the draft review stage of the UDC campus plan and the need to revise the UDC plan to accurately reflect the new archive building proposal as discussed in my previous presentation. As such, our proposed comments relate to design sustainability, landscaping, lighting, security, and finally, we request some additional information as part of the next project submission from the applicant. And I will go through each of these topic areas as part of my presentation. So here's the project location in the southwestern corner of the UDC campus. The site is currently occupied by UDC's Building 41, which is known as the College of Arts and Sciences building. The building is only partially occupied right now with a child care facility, and the building also houses the UDC Felix E. Grant Jazz Archives collection. The 158,000 square foot, six-level brutalist style building has a massive look and was completed in 1979. The building is prominent in the area based on its 90-foot height and octagonal shape, which is distinctive from the other rectilinear buildings on the UDC campus. The building exterior is a mix of cast in place and architectural precast concrete with very few windows. And here are some views of the existing site as it looks today. Today, the building is only partially used based on its obsolete and inefficient interior layout and dated mechanical systems. Here is a comparison between the existing site with Building 41 on the left and the proposed new archive building footprint on the right. The district mayor's office selected the proposed site after a multi-year study that identified the project's programmatic requirements and considered multiple alternative locations in an effort to meet the city's needs for long-term archival and record storage. And we note this in the executive director's recommendation. As described in my earlier presentation, the 2020 UDC campus plan shows multiple potential uses for the project site, which include preserving and repurposing Building 41 for future student housing or new academic space, or adding on to Building 41 and using the building as a new consolidated district archive facility. And we note our recommendation for UDC to revise its campus plan to reflect the current project proposal, which we included as part of our campus plan comments. Here are the project goals, which focus on preserving the district's rich history, providing a state-of-the-art modern facility, supporting other district agencies through information sharing, and constructing a sustainable facility that would achieve LEED Gold certification. This graphic compares the two building footprints and their locations on the site, with the archives building encompassing a ground area of approximately 30,000 square feet compared to Building 41's 26,000 square foot ground area. And the new building would roughly align with Building 41's west and north sides. However, a portion of the building's east facade would pull back from Denard Plaza, and its south and southeast sides would extend closer to Van Ness Street. Here's a comparison between the existing and future building elevations along Van Ness Street, looking toward the north. The new archive building would be smaller in scale than Building 41, despite its similar height. The new archive building would encompass 118,000 total square feet above grade, compared to Building 41, which encompasses 158,000 square feet. The new building would be located on the UDC campus, but would not be managed by UDC. Rather, the city would operate, manage, and control the new facility through its Office of Public Records, which is part of the mayor's office. The new building's design would reflect a combination of brutalist design elements, which is the predominant style on the UDC campus, along with the more modern elements of UDC's Student Union Center. And here you can see the building's mix of blockier, more massive looking elements, as well as its glassy, undulating, curvilinear parts. And we reflect these points in the final executive director's recommendation. About 2/3 of the archive building's ground level would be used as public space, situated in the southern and eastern parts of the building, looking out toward Van Ness Street and Denard Plaza, and its service-related activities on the ground level would be located in the western and northern parts of the building. And here you can see the building's main public entrance from Van Ness Street on its south side, leading into a grand open glass lobby area. And the delivery, receiving, and loading access would be accessed from a service road off of Van Ness Street. The building's second, third, and fourth levels would be primarily allocated to archival staff work areas, shown here as the brown shaded rooms, with storage areas shown in light and dark green. The penthouse level plan on the right shows solar PV arrays and a partial green rooftop, and we note this in the executive director's recommendation. The design goal for the project is to meet the LEED Gold standard. However, we do encourage the applicant, DGS, to consider a LEED Platinum design standard for the project, given the urgency of climate change and in light of the district's larger sustainability goals. The building design is driven by the city's need for a consolidated archival, storage, and records facility, which has unique functional considerations that include accommodating 18-foot floor-to-floor height storage shelving systems, preventing all natural light from intruding into storage spaces, which requires significant portions of the building facade to be designed without fenestration. And the new building must balance a mix of public access and security with limited access storage, research, and work areas on levels 2 through 4, and a public research center, the UDC Felix E. Grant Jazz Archives Research Center, a 300-person multi-purpose room, public exhibit spaces, and the building lobby on the ground level. And we reference these requirements as part of our final executive director's recommendation comments. Here are elevations that show the two more public engaging sides of the building, facing to the south toward Van Ness Street at the top of the slide, and east toward Denard Plaza and the UDC campus on the bottom. These building facades would have clear undulating glass sections that intermingle with the opaque concrete blocky building elements, which encompass the building's archival and records storage areas. And here are the north and west facing sides of the building, where the building's more expansive blank walls would be more apparent. The building sides would face UDC's athletic fields and the International Chancery Center located further to the west. These photos show the proposed new building materials consisting of precast concrete, metal panels, and metal and glass curtain walls. And here I would like to note the design includes ridged patterned concrete that would allow dynamic shadowing throughout the day in an effort to visually break up the building's large, expansive concrete surfaces. The site plan shows the applicant's intent to plant new trees, shrubs, biofiltration areas, and install paving along the building's more public south, east, and north sides, with meandering walkways, a fountain plaza, and terracing adjacent to Denard Plaza. The project would require the removal of 31 trees, many of which are described as undersized and in poor health by the applicant. And based on a comment from DDOT's Urban Forestry Division, we remind the applicant that any planned larger tree removals or trees with 14-inch trunk diameters or larger would require a special tree removal permit from the Forestry Division. Based on the submitted tree inventory, the project would require the removal of 2 to 3 larger trees on the site out of the 31 total planned tree removals. Here are several ground views of the building, both looking toward the building's public entrance and main lobby area. Moving toward the building, here's a closer view, and this rendering includes existing and future mature trees and vegetation on and adjacent to the site. And then here's a closer view of the building's main public entry area and lobby, standing on the edge of the site without proposed new trees and vegetation. And then here we can see the future mature on-site trees and shrubs. Here's a closer view of the building's prominent main entry and lobby area. And this is a more frontal view of the building's entrance from across Van Ness Street with future mature street trees and vegetation. Here are several views looking across Denard Plaza toward the west and southwest. And here's the building's north-facing side, which would face several UDC buildings in its athletic complex area. Here's a view looking across UDC's athletic fields at the building's north and west-facing, more utilitarian sides. And then here is the building's west-facing side, which would have the delivery and service access area. Although the project would slightly increase the number of trees on the site, we encourage the applicant to work with UDC to identify additional tree planting locations around the campus near the project site, which would not only benefit the new building, but additional trees would also help the university attain its 40% tree canopy area goal. In particular, we encourage the applicant to consider planting additional trees along the west side of the building's access drive, which would also benefit the future UDC athletic field there near Denard Plaza and directly north of the project site where feasible. In addition, we also encourage the applicant to incorporate milkweed and other pollinator plants into the project landscaping. And we also encourage DGS to design all outdoor lighting to comply with International Dark Sky Association standards as reflected in our review comments. We note the project does not include any security bollards. However, should a threat assessment warrant additional measures in the future, the city should consider creative protective solutions such as additional landscaping, hardened street furniture, and outdoor lighting fixtures. And we request lighting and signage plans as part of the next project submission to our commission. And finally, we encourage the applicant to continue its coordination with the DC Archives Advisory Group and local ANC. And the applicant should work with the District Department of Energy and Environment to continue to develop the project stormwater management plans so that they meet the district's stringent standards. So with that, here's the Executive Director's recommendation, which is divided over the next 3 slides. However, I will not go through each point as I have already summarized our comments through my presentation. And before I conclude, as a reminder, I would like to introduce Brian Farrell and Scott Tejera, who are the design managers for the projects, as well as Dr. Lopez Matthews Jr., who is the city's archives administrator, and Meredith Moldenhauer, who is the land use attorney for the project, and they are all available for questions from the commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much, Mr. Weil. I want to open it up now to the commissioners for any questions of our staff or those intending to present or support, answer questions on this project. Are there any questions? Yes, Commissioner Stidham.
So I had just a couple of questions. The master plan says that there are multiple potential future uses for Building 41, and I think it included the College of Arts and Sciences and a library, some student housing and new academic space. Is there somewhere in the plan, in the campus plan, where those uses are redirected to a different structure, or how will those uses be addressed for the campus?
Well, right now, the building is only partially occupied. I believe there's a daycare facility there now, and it also houses the Jazz Archives collection. Those uses, I believe, would be relocated to another building on campus. But I'll let Mr. Dushan provide more information on that.
Yes, that is correct. We're currently renovating an entire floor in buildings 38 and 39 to relocate some of the uses. And also we plan on renovating 4250 to relocate and consolidate colleges in that building. So very few use right now for that building. The community, the childcare is in an isolated part of the ground building, and they will be there until the end of this year.
Okay. I understand that the archives will be a public building, not associated with the campus, and that other locations were investigated before choosing this one. Can you help me understand why you would use the campus space that could have a future function for the campus for a public space that is not associated with the campus?
Sure, Commissioner Stidham, this is Meredith Moldenhauer. The university always understood there was an opportunity for both its needs to serve the students' needs and the city's needs, as well as serving the district's needs for the district archives. So in preparing the master campus plan, we evaluated multiple different uses for each building, understanding that we could accomplish both goals here. And so we think that the ability to serve this will also serve the university students, will serve the community overall.
Okay, thank you. My concern is, this, we've talked about the significance of the campus when we were talking about the master plan. And this being the only one in the United States anymore, and just concerns with occupying campus space that maybe you don't have a defined purpose for right now, but future use of students, and then giving up that space for a public building that has opportunity in other locations. You're just thinking, not about uses today or 20 years from now, but 50 years from now, when the campus needs to expand to meet the needs of the students, and how that would accommodate it with this adjacent building. So that was the point for my question. So thank you.
Chair Goodman, I was wondering if it would be appropriate if I waited and just a little bit of the policy history behind here, because the council is the one that kind of made these moves, and maybe provide a little more context there.
I'm certainly open to that, Commissioner Cash.
Sure.
Thank you.
So this is, depending on how you count it, in the last 10 years, this is the third or fourth site that we've tried to make this work at. So the original plan was looking at the Recorder of Deeds building down near Judiciary Square, and that simply wasn't feasible because of the historic nature of the structure and just the size of it. There's a facility called Penn Center in Eckington, which is along the train tracks there. That facility was seriously considered for a while, but again, it's historic. There were considerations about space constraints and just about being so close to an industrial area. We had looked at maybe doing it on W Street over by Home Depot for a while, but there were better uses that were found for that, and we just don't have a lot of land. So I think that in working with the university, there's a lot of synergies that can happen here by having DC's facility on the university site. We can have partnerships to have internships come over and help us sort all of this information, which we haven't had. So we just saw a lot of really good synergies by having this kind of archives programming happening in the city right adjacent to our public education institution. And just going back to what I mentioned earlier about, we've had such great partnerships with the university, with us helping them get other buildings. So they were, I think, able to make this work in their overall plans too. But it's been a journey in finding this location.
Thank you, Commissioner Cash. That is helpful, and that does make a lot of sense. As someone who's done a lot of research in the city, moving from spot to spot to spot to get something from here to find out you need to go somewhere else to get the other piece of what you're looking for. It will be very nice to have it in a nice space. It's just trying to understand the thinking behind the process. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Stidham and Commissioner Cash. Are there more questions from commissioners for Mr. Weil or the team assembled?
Yeah, I have a quick question. I mean,
Yes.
there seems to be a constituency for every brutalist building in this city and elsewhere. Is there one for this one? Because boy, is it a dog. I hope not.
I don't hear any comments from our guests on that, so.
We are not aware of any constituency.
Okay, good. So you're not going to get anybody showing up at the last minute saying, you know, don't tear it down. Okay.
I would speak up as a constituent for the building. And I think it's a great idea. And I want to move it, make a motion to adopt it when I get a chance.
Okay, are there
Oh,
any?
I meant the old one. I meant the one that's coming down.
The new one going up.
Yeah,
If you need another building, they can put one in Anacostia River East.
Okay, all right, so back to the matter at hand here. Do we have any further questions from commissioners? Commissioner Argo, are you, no? Anyone else? Okay, well, hearing no further questions for staff and representatives of the project, I would entertain a motion. If you can turn your cameras on, commissioners, please, and make yourselves available. But I'd entertain a motion then to approve the comments on the concept plans for the District of Columbia Archives building so that we can have a discussion, a full discussion amongst ourselves.
Madam Chair, I said I would make a motion already.
Okay, we have a motion. We have many motions and seconds. Ms. Coster, I'll leave that to you. Now that it's been moved and seconded, though, I do want to start the round robin process, and we're starting with Commissioner Cash this time. If you have any additional comments on this project.
I actually do. I think in the last or one of the last presentations we talked a little bit about the historic context, and I've worked on this archives project for the council for going on over 10 years now. So I've been really in the deep of working closely with the archives advisory group. But just for context, the current archives building that we have in the district is in Naylor Court. It's a 25,000 square foot building that was built in 1880. It has HVAC that we probably have a better HVAC system in the offices we're all sitting in now than what this old building has. And it is structurally, this is needed to happen for a long time. This discussion's been going on for 20 years. And I mean, while I think any state's archives are really important to the state, I think DC, being the nation's capital, we're fairly unique. So the current archives right now, that horrible building in Naylor Court, has all of our land records going back to 1790. Right. And all of the things that went along with those records uniquely in DC, like manumission papers and all that is included here. We have Frederick Douglass's will is in this building. George Washington's will is sitting in this building in an alleyway in Shaw in an 1880s building. So, I mean, the amount of stuff in here that needs to be preserved is really important. It hasn't even been sorted in probably 100 years. We don't know where to find this stuff in the current building because it's just so inadequate. So that's why this project's been going on for so long, to get it in a state-of-the-art modern facility that we can all be proud of. And a lot of the stuff that's in there, Commissioner Stidham mentioned trying to go and do the research, because we only have 3 or 4 people. So you have to make an appointment a week in advance to go in and see these old land records. So just the public accessibility of being able to go in there and see all this stuff is so important. They can't do it right now. And there's other interesting artifacts that are in there too. So I don't know if anyone's ever been to the courthouse in Los Angeles. There's a sculpture of young Abraham Lincoln that's in there. The original cast of that is in the DC archives right now. There's an old electric chair from the DC jail in the early 1900s. There's so much history that just can't be displayed to the public right now. So that's why this project, I think, is really, really important. And looking at this building is not just another building on university campus, but it's the first time in the district's 250 years that we will finally have all this stuff together, viewable to the public, viewable to the next generations that can come in and see it. So I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but I've just been involved in this project for so long. I just want to give context to what we're really talking about, as compared to what we think about state archives in other states. So being the nation's capital, we have something that's pretty unique, and it's our local history too. So I just want to, I will also just comment on the design, because I've seen the designs for those other locations I'd mentioned. No offense to the architecture firm, because I know it's the same firm, but I think that this site has given you a lot more freedom to do something that's a lot better than what we saw with trying to squeeze the program into those other locations. And I know that there were a lot of comments about trying to get the lead rating on this up. I will say that because the whole campus right now is so brutalist, I think that these initial designs do an interesting job of trying to marry the two so that we don't have some, I mean, the student center really sticks out. It's still a beautiful building, but I think this is doing an interesting job of blending. And I think that that might have something to do with the lead rating, but it's so much better from where we've been over the last several iterations on other sites. So I want to give congratulations to the architecture team and the team at DGS for moving ahead this long. Please don't value engineer this, because there are so many DGS projects that have had to be value engineered over the past years as the price of materials have gone up. So I really encourage you to, this is a great first step, and I can't wait to see the final plans going down the line. So that's my long screed. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, Commissioner Cash. Appreciate your passion for this project, and the background and history of the archive is fascinating and just makes this work all the more important. So moving along, Commissioner Giuseppe, I'm sorry, Giacchetti.
Sorry, no comments or questions on my end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Giacchetti. Commissioner Kozar.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you to the staff. Even as the presentation was being shared, I was excited about the opportunities for more programming and all kinds of things that could really support a focus on archives, really channeling Commissioner Cash's passion there. And I think that's really something remarkable, and I'm excited to see where this goes.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Kozar. Commissioner McMahon, please.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the presentation from the staff and the vibrant discussion. I appreciate especially Commissioner Wright's discussion about brutalism in the District of Columbia. So, but a good use of the property. It's just, we didn't really say it. I think Commissioner Cash kind of reflected on it, but I mean, there is synergy here between DC's archives and the university and its mission of preserving the history of DC. So I think there's great value there to give them the space to do what they need to do to really get a good handle on their records and reflecting what's happened for so many years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner McMahon. Commissioner Stidham.
I definitely agree with everything that's been said. I mean, the district is such a special place and such a unique history. And the fact that the records have been stored, you know, in one location, in that location, under situations that are not optimal and not accessible for everyone to learn is sad, and looking forward to this new building and its uses and access to people to all those records.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Stidham. Commissioner Argo.
Yes, I really appreciate the work that's been done on this. And I think going back to one of the earlier comments, I think it's more difficult than many of us may realize how hard it is to balance public access with the security needs in buildings like this, and to do that in a way where design and functionality are not compromised. So I would say good job, and let's move ahead. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Argo. Commissioner Hewlett.
Yes, I would like to associate myself with several of the previous comments. Thank you. And again, I'd like to thank Mr. Weil for his presentation. And also to Commissioner Cash, thank you for your historical perspective, for sharing that really shed a lot of light on it too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hewlett. Commissioner Green.
Thank you. I really like this project. I love the co-location of the archives on the UDC campus. I think that's just going to be a terrific long-term affiliation. And I really like the design of the building. There are very few places in the world where you see contextual brutalist infill, and it looks a lot easier to do than it is. And it's done very well. I think it's a very good building, and I think it suits its site, it suits its function. It's very understated for what it is. I think it's a trickier piece of infill than it looks. Mm-hmm. And I it's really looking forward to seeing this.
Great. Thank you so much, Commissioner Green. Commissioner Wright.
I think you had this is a real opportunity to get rid of that clunker. I think I insulted dogs earlier. That's a bad building by anyone's standards. But I do have a couple of suggestions. I think the massing is really quite elegant. But I have a couple of suggestions. And they have to do with context. I agree with Commissioner Green. This is not easy to pull off. And I think you're really close, but why not try for even closer? Two things. I think, well, three things. Okay, one, you're in danger of having, the many faces of Eve, and a schizophrenic building. It could be the rendering, and I get why the north and west are practically windowless for the function of the building. But and again, it might be a rendering thing, but it kind of looked like the two other elevations, like west and north, and then south and east could be different buildings. And again, it's just that the renderings make it look so dark. So that's probably something you've already thought of. And not like I'm going to tell you anything you haven't thought of. The other thing I would suggest is a little bit of punch of more color. And I'm specifically thinking about the Student Union building. It is quite vibrant, and the values of the hues that have been employed there are very deep. And again, rendering, I can see that you've got some punches of color inside that you can see through the glazed elevations, but you might think about adding a little bit more, because it'll signal that it's part of the composition along Van Ness Street. And the other thing that you might think about, although I know people hate them, is somehow figuring out some ways to include some glass bricks. And I say that because of Intelsat. You never know. UDC may come up with, a bunch of dough one day and acquire it, although I'm sure it looks unlikely because it's just been bought. But might as well take the long view. And even if it doesn't, there's nothing wrong with looking like you're like you having something in common with your neighbors, even if the property line doesn't extend to Intelsat. You're still on the same street. And so it's just a thought. That's less compelling to me than the trying to integrate something of the Student Union building into these archives. And that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Wright. And finally, then Commissioner Dixon.
I support it, and thank you for all the comments everybody gave.
Thank you, Commissioner Dixon. And I do have a few comments. Finally, I just want to say thank you again to Mr. Weil for the presentation and for all the support, professional support staff that have been here to answer our questions. It's very important to us. I especially want to thank Commissioner Cash for that history, because having worked for the state of Iowa Historical Society as a trustee and for our own local county in Dubuque, Iowa, I know how critically important archives are, but I am just so jazzed by this marriage of archives with a small university setting, because there is a population drop for incoming students in 2025 into colleges and universities across the country. And I think it's these kinds of really important and special partnerships that are going to be an attraction to new students, as the university tries to reinvigorate its student population in the district. So I just think what a great learning opportunity. It appeals to the nerd in me and that loves history. I think you'll find this is going to be critically important to the kids coming in. And I agree with Mina. I'm not a fan of Brutalist. I love the new building. I love the, as was the point made by Commissioner Green, the infill has been done very well, given the challenges. And this is just a very creative and exciting project. So congratulations to all you. I look forward to seeing the next submission. Then are there any more comments? Are there further comments or from the commissioners? Anything else? Well, hearing none, then Ms. Coster, could you please confirm the motion and the second and take the roll call vote, please?
Certainly, this was a motion to approve comments on the concept designs for the DC Archives building. Commissioner Dixon made the motion. It was seconded by Commissioner Hewlett. And with that, Commissioner Cozart,
Yes.
Commissioner McMahon,
Yes.
Commissioner Stidham,
Yes.
Commissioner Argo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hewlett,
Yes.
Chair Goodman,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Dixon,
Yes.
Commissioner Cash,
Yes.
okay, and Commissioner Giacchetti.
Yes.
Motion clearly passes. Thank you very much, Ms. Coster. Agenda item 6D is to approve the final master plan for the FDA's Muirkirk campus. And Ms. Free is going to be making this presentation. I do want to say that there are representatives from several different organizations, Elena Garrison and Timothy Garman from the FDA. Rod Henderer from CRT-KL and Shelley Jones from the GSA. So thank you, Ms. Free. If you could begin. And we'll
Yes.
turn off cameras.
Great, thank you. Can you see me, hear me, and see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, great. Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. The U.S. General Services Administration, in coordination with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, has submitted a final master plan for the FDA Muirkirk Road campus, or MRC, which is located in Laurel, Maryland. The purpose of the proposed master plan is to guide the future development of the campus over the next 20 years as a leading scientific institution and a campus that is exemplary of environmental stewardship. And overall, staff is recommending approval of the final master plan. The Commission reviewed the most recent master plan for the MRC in 1981. Prior to that, the campus site development plan was reviewed by the Commission in 1966. The Commission heard an information presentation about the master plan update in February 2021 and approved comments on the draft master plan in September of 2021. Today, we are looking at the final review for the MRC's new master plan. At the final review stage, the Commission should be focused on topics such as any unresolved issues or comments on the draft master plan and completion of the transportation management plan. I'll begin the presentation with some brief context for the MRC, and then I'll discuss the framework of the 2021 draft master plan and the Commission's comments on the draft. I'll then provide an overview of the preferred alternative that was selected for the final master plan and the refinements to the plan since the draft. The FDA MRC is a 249-acre campus located approximately 16 miles northeast of central Washington, D.C. The campus is centrally located between Route 1 to the west and Interstate 295 to the east. The campus is near several other federal properties in Prince George's County, including the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center, the NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, and the proposed Bureau of Engraving and Printing site. The campus is also located approximately 1.5 miles east of the Muirkirk station and about 6.5 miles north of the Greenbelt Metro station. Other FDA campuses in the region are also nearby, including the FDA White Oak campus in Silver Spring and the FDA Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition in College Park. The campus has primary access from Muirkirk Road, and it's bisected by Odell Road, dividing the property into an east parcel and a west parcel. The master plan focuses development on the west parcel only, around 2 existing buildings referred to as modules or mods 1 and 2, and the Beltsville Research Facility, or the BRF, to the east. The draft master plan anticipated consolidation of 1,500 additional employees to bring the total site population to 1,800. A total of 438,000 gross square feet of development and 900 parking spaces were proposed to accommodate this expansion. The draft master plan proposed 3 different alternatives, A, B, and C. the commission did not state a preference for the specific development alternative in the draft review. Instead, the commission noted pros and cons of each alternative and provided comments for the applicant to incorporate in the development of a preferred alternative. FDA has selected alternative B as the preferred alternative in the final master plan. Staff supports alternative B as the preferred alternative because it balances program needs with the site's unique natural resources and character. Alternative B proposes a new central office building that connects mods 1 and 2 to another new office building on the east side of the site, with a parking garage located behind module 1 and another near a new entrance on Odell Road. 2 secure access points are now proposed, both on Muirkirk Road and Odell Road. Here you can see the proposed interconnected office buildings were 4 and 5 stories high in the draft master plan. An office building with a glass atrium was also proposed as a terminus to the view from Muirkirk Road. The commission supported the orientation of the buildings on the central natural landscape space in alternative B. However, it found that the long sequence of buildings created a hardened edge that conflicted with the site's unique natural character. The commission also found that the distribution of the proposed parking near mods 1 and 2 and the BRF better supported the campus population as compared with the other alternatives which consolidated the parking to one side of the site. Additional comments provided by the commission included retaining a formal entrance into the campus from Muirkirk Road, maximizing an uninterrupted view of from the main entrance into the natural landscape, refining the program needs, providing all employee parking in structured garages rather than surface lots, and avoiding permanent impacts to wetlands and streams to the extent possible. So I'll now discuss how alternative B has evolved in the final master plan. This segment of the presentation will also discuss project phasing and improvements to the transportation management plan. The final master plan anticipates approximately 385,000 square feet of office, laboratory, and shared use space, a total campus population of 1,800 employees, 900 employee parking spaces, and support facilities such as a visitor center and transit center, security screening stations, and open space amenities. Staff notes that alternative B incorporates adjustments to the population estimates and additional lab space that were not part of the 2021 draft master plan. However, the total anticipated employee population is still the same, and the total square footage of development does not exceed the draft master plan estimates. The development program has also been refined through a series of iterations studying the building siting, massing, and conceptual design that were driven by 2 main factors. First, FDA recently completed a 2-phase laboratory study that confirmed the appropriate size of laboratory space for the campus. And secondly, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services recently updated its 21st century workplace space planning policy, which is based on increased telework. By applying this policy, approximately 1,200 seats are needed to support the 1,800 person population at the MRC. Here we have a bird's eye view of alternative B, which demonstrates how new development is spread across the campus, with the proposed laboratory at the center. It connects to existing building module 1 and 2 and the new office building to the east. 2 structured parking garages distribute employee parking on either side of the campus, and a visitor parking lot is provided with just outside of the secure perimeter, co-located with a transit center that would support ride sharing and bus service near the main entrance on Muirkirk Road. And to the east off of Odell Road as a new secure access point for truck screening. And here's the view of alternative B from the draft master plan for comparison. You can see that the final plan is generally consistent with some refinements to the building size, form, and massing. In slides, I will discuss the development phasing plan. The first phase will relocate some of the existing campus employees to a new office annex space located here, adjacent to existing module building 2. This building will replace an existing 35-space surface parking lot, which is the first step in reducing the campus's parking ratio. It is anticipated that this phase will be completed by 2025. The second phase represents the first phase of growth and is anticipated to occur around 2030, with the consolidation of 168 additional employees, bringing the total site population to approximately 468 people. New construction includes 2 4-level laboratory buildings, a 2-level parking structure with 235 spaces adjacent to Module 1, and an adjacent maintenance and storage building. Realignment of the campus's main entrance, a new guard booth, and the visitor transit center, shared drop-off and truck screening facility near Odell Road are also included in phase 2. An intermediary phase will occur during the construction of phase 2. The existing support buildings, an existing fitness center, and a new temporary parking lot with 235 spaces at the VRF site will be maintained. The temporary lot will be demolished when phase 2 construction is complete and the garage behind Module 1 is constructed. The timing of the third phase is not yet known, but it is assumed that a gradual increase of an additional 1,332 employees will occur within a 20 to 30 year timeframe with a horizon of 2040. It includes construction of 2 5-level office buildings and shared use space. This phase also includes a 4-level parking structure with 665 spaces near Odell Road. And here we have a view into the campus from the main entrance on Muirkirk Road. The commission previously requested that the applicant study how to maximize the view into the natural landscape from this entrance. And to do so, the final master plan proposes a physical break between the upper floors of the laboratory buildings. Additional views around the campus demonstrate the building massing and form, which will be refined further in the design phase. The commission will have an opportunity to review the designs as part of the future site and building plan submissions. And here you can see that the buildings will be mostly screened by an existing 100-foot vegetative buffer that will be maintained along Muirkirk Road. This is a view from above, looking east to west. The locations for the new buildings have been chosen because they are in relatively flat parts of the site, embrace the site's woodlands, and make the woodlands accessible for staff as an amenity space. And here, looking west to east with modules 1 and 2 in the foreground, breaks in the building massing are provided between the new office and laboratory buildings that create a more porous edge. And overall, staff finds that the building massing in alternative B has improved by incorporating physical breaks that respond to the site's natural features while maintaining circulation between the buildings. In addition, alternative B has eliminated all wetland impacts and reduced the amount of impervious surface area that was previously proposed. As seen in the proposed landscape plan here, an elevated boardwalk between the buildings weaves through the central natural space, avoiding impacts to wetlands and water resources. Tree cover is also a priority. About 5 acres of trees will be removed and replaced in accordance with NCPC's policies. Here we have a view of the designed landscape spaces around the new buildings and roads with the new tree cover turned off for clarity. The tree cover we see here is what will be preserved on the site and also forest improvement areas. The final master plan also incorporates a number of sustainable site and building features, including solar panels on top of the building and garage rooftops, and a solar canopy over the visitor surface parking lot. On the building, solar will be installed in combination with extensive green roof vegetation. The master plan also incorporates other green building elements, such as using low carbon emitting materials and green walls. And the landscape design will incorporate native vegetation, permeable paving, bioswales, rain gardens, and other low impact stormwater management techniques. Electrical vehicle charging stations are also considered in the parking areas. And overall, staff commends the final master plan's approach to green building for future development, which includes a minimum of LEED Gold certification, sustainable site silver certification, net zero energy and water, well certification, extensive solar array and green roof installations, and decarbonization goals consistent with federal standards. The desired image of the MRC assimilates a look and feel that ties the campus to other FDA properties in the region with materials such as terracotta, warm brick tones, and mass timber. And as a civilian federal facility, the MRC must adhere to the latest standard of the Interagency Security Committee Level 3 requirements. The campus is currently surrounded by a 10-foot high chain link fence with barbed wire on top. The interior fences are currently 7 feet high. Per ISC requirements, any new development on the campus should maintain a 50-meter site setback from the perimeter, and the campus plan incorporates elements necessary to restrict the uncontrolled access of vehicles and pedestrians. With this in mind, the plan seeks to integrate security design with the use of the natural topography, new landscape elements, outdoor spaces, and stormwater BMPs. Ornamental fencing, similar to the example shown here, is planned in areas of pedestrians and high public visibility, and a chain link fence will be provided in the more hidden or wooded areas on the campus. The final master plan includes an updated transportation management plan, or TMP. In the next few slides, I will discuss the Commission's comments on the draft TMP and how the final TMP has been updated to address those comments. The TMP indicates that most FDA employees travel approximately 11 to 20 miles to work, and approximately 97% of MRC employees drove to work alone pre-pandemic. With 320 parking spaces available for the current population of 300 employees, this results in a parking ratio of 1 parking space for every 0.94 employees. The draft transportation management plan included a 1 to 1.1 parking ratio within 5 years and a 1 to 1.35 parking ratio by 2030, which the Commission did not support. The final master plan and TMP propose an improved interim parking ratio of 1 to 1.33 within 5 years and a 1 to 2 parking ratio by 2030. This is primarily achieved with population growth and expanded telework policies. The TMP outlines various TDM, or transportation demand management strategies, consistent with the policies of the federal transportation element. This includes outreach and education, enhanced transit services and connections, non-transit options, flexible scheduling and telework, and enhanced connections to the adjacent community. The TMP indicates that telework will be a significant trip reduction measure and also a challenge in that carpool and vanpool and higher cost TDM strategies, such as enhanced transit connections, may be more difficult to implement with a lower average on-site population. In addition to telework, the TMP recommends the FDA consider operating a shuttle between the Muirkirk station and the MRC. However, the cost of the shuttle may be difficult to justify due to ridership numbers affected by the increased telework program. However, there will be a relatively large federal employment base in the area of the MRC that could support higher intensity transit and shuttle services, as well as expand the potential user base for strategies like carpooling and vanpooling. And therefore, staff emphasizes the importance of FDA partnering with other nearby federal facilities to implement ride matching and enhance transit connections to reduce single occupancy vehicle trips and encourage transit use. As described before, 900 parking spaces will be provided for the total employee population of 1,800 employees. However, the average on-site population will be closer to 1,200 due to expanded telework policies. This results in an ample amount of parking available to those reporting to the campus each day, which encourages driving to the campus versus using other forms of transportation, such as public transit. In consideration of the expansion of telework post-pandemic, NCPC has partnered with the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments on a scenario planning study to better understand the cumulative impacts of federal telework and hybrid workplaces on our region. This study is anticipated to be complete near the end of the 2023 calendar year, and NCPC will use the findings of the workplace scenario planning project to evaluate the impact of telework on the comprehensive plan parking ratios and the percentage of single occupancy vehicle travel that may increase with less commuting. The applicant also completed a traffic impact analysis as part of the TMP. The results of the traffic analysis show that the proposed increase of employees at the MRC by 2040 would have a moderate adverse impact on traffic conditions in the study area. However, many of the impacts that that are experienced on the intersections would occur regardless of implementing the master plan, which assumes growth due to nearby developments. And therefore, staff requests that the applicant continue coordination with state and local stakeholders to ensure that applicable off-site traffic mitigation measures are implemented prior to or concurrent with implementation of the master plan. And with regard to environmental justice, staff notes that the final EIS, or environmental impact statement, assessed impacts associated with the development alternatives to determine if they would result in disproportionate impacts to low-income and minority populations. The area surrounding the MRC includes environmental justice populations that are susceptible to environmental impacts. And staff notes that the final EIS indicates that air quality, noise, and traffic impacts would be mitigated, and there would be no adverse human health or environmental impacts that would disproportionately affect environmental justice populations. NCPC's policy for intergovernmental review included a 60-day referral period to allow state and local jurisdictions an opportunity to comment on the proposed master plan. The MRC draft master plan was referred through the Maryland State Clearinghouse in June 2021, and the comments received were incorporated into the Commission's prior draft recommendations. These comments received were generally supportive of the master plan, and a detailed response from the FDA to the Prince George's County Planning Board's comments is outlined in the Executive Director's report. Overall, staff recommends the applicant continue to work with Prince George's County to address the Planning Board's recommendations, including enhanced pedestrian and bicycle connections on Muirkirk Road, as the plan progresses into the design phase. And so this concludes my presentation. The Executive Director's recommendations are listed here for reference and have also been incorporated into my presentation. And in addition to myself, we have several project representatives on the line to answer questions, including Shelley Jones with GSA. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Free. We appreciate this detailed and wonderful presentation. And so now we'll move to the commissioners. And are there any questions right now for Ms. Free or her associates? Are there any questions about this project? Are there any questions? Hearing none, we will move along, and I'd certainly entertain a motion to have a discussion and approve the final master plan for the FDA Muirkirk campus. Is there a motion?
So
I'll
moved.
move it.
Okay, Commissioner Wright has.
Oh, I
moved.
didn't know if you heard me. I was on mute. Oh, that's okay. No worries. I'll second
okay.
it. I'll second
Okay,
it.
then, all right, then Vice Chair Hewlett seconds it. So thank you. And I'm going to begin with Commissioner Wright. You're up first this time. So could you please share your comments?
I'm not going to steal the thunder of our really wonderful PM, Shelley Jones. She's been eating, breathing, sleeping this thing for, good Lord, I don't know how many years now, 4 maybe, and Rod Henderer. But Shelley, the architect of record. Shelley, would you like to underscore any points that you think the presentation didn't emphasize enough?
Actually, I think Stephanie did a great job emphasizing.
I thought
the
she
project.
did too.
Okay.
I think the biggest challenge out there is transportation. And I think the transportation studies have been exhaustive. That's the biggest challenge that we see. I think that's really it. But Stephanie outlined how we're going to get there, to get to the parking ratios, et cetera.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you, Commissioner Wright. Any other comments there? No. Okay, then we'll move along to Commissioner Dixon. There you are.
I'm okay with it.
Okay, all right, great. That's super.
I was expecting you to gush over the solar panels, Arrington.
I got a lot going on at the moment, so I'm okay. I was happy to hear it.
Okay, I would like to ask, Ms. Coster, is Commissioner Cash available? Or is he?
I believe he has stepped away momentarily,
Okay,
but
all right, very good. Then I'll return to him. Then Commissioner Giacchetti.
No comments. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Cozart.
Thank you to staff for the presentation and no further comments.
Thank you. Commissioner McMahon.
Appreciate the staff's presentation. I appreciate Ms. Jones' work on helping shepherd this through, especially the changes they made since the last time they came, and it looks like a very good use of the property. Thanks.
Very good. Commissioner Stidham.
Thank you for the presentation. No comments from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Argo.
Thoughtful presentation, exciting opportunities here. Appreciate all the work that's gone into this by the applicants as well as the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Argo. Vice Chair Hewlett.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank Ms. Free for her presentation. Thank Ms. Jones as well for her efforts, which were far longer than my tenure on this board. I wanted to talk about the environmental justice population there. And it's so true. And we've heard this on other cases in that area. It's right near the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. There was concern about the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center. So, and then as Commissioner Wright started off and is included in our presentation, transportation is going to be a huge issue. So you may have, instead of having 1,800, you may have somewhere like 1,200, given the teleworking option. But the issue with that is that we may have shuttles. And I think I heard somebody say that the shuttles might not be viable, it might be cost prohibitive because of the fewer number of people working there. But when you factor in the other nearby federal enclaves near right there, then it might be more viable. So let's not discount that at all. I would also, as a matter of personal privilege, since we sent the letter when I was chair of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, I would urge us to consider all of the items outlined in the letter from the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission and the Planning Board. And I think that was about it for me. But thank you so much for your presentation, and I'd like to see this come to fruition.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hewlett. Commissioner Green.
Thank you. That was very thorough, and I have no questions. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Is Commissioner Cash, has he returned? I don't see him.
I don't believe so.
Okay, well, some of my comments, I'm going to associate my comments with Vice Chair Hewlett and with Commissioner Wright. I think transportation, as we all know, can frequently be a barrier to prosperity. And I think we need to look at the opportunities to collaborate and provide shuttle services or other transportation connectivity for everyone for their positions and their work at this place. I'm just super impressed with all the work that's gone into this, and the presentation, Ms. Free, was excellent, and for your work, Ms. Jones, the environmental mitigation and the incorporation of the natural environment and in the building and the surroundings and the amenities for the workforce there are just breathtaking. And I just have to say, talk about a great example. It's one that really sets the standard very high for other projects. So I just commend the GSA and the FDA for your approach and your ability to incorporate sustainability into this tremendous campus for federal employees. And I encourage you to take a second look at those equity components of transportation. So thank you very much. Are there any further comments or questions from members of the commission? No further comments or questions. Hearing none, then Ms. Coster, could you please confirm the motion in the second and take the roll call?
Certainly. The motion was made by Commissioner Wright and Vice Chair Hewlett seconded. And with that, Commissioner Cozart?
Yes.
Commissioner McMahon?
Yes.
Commissioner Stidham,
Yes.
Commissioner Argo,
Yes.
Commissioner Hewlett,
Yes.
Chair Goodman,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Dixon,
Yes.
Commissioner Cash rejoining,
Yes.
and Commissioner Giacchetti.
I abstain.
Okay. Thank you very much. The motion has carried. So we'll move to the final item on our extensive agenda today, and that is information presentation regarding the Washington Union Station expansion project. And I understand, and I apologize, Mr. Slice.
Bliss.
Okay, very
Yes,
good.
no
I
worries.
apologize. I normally check before these meetings on the pronunciation, but I did
No,
not.
no problem. It's very
Okay.
short, very short.
Okay,
last name.
very good. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you, Chair Goodman and Commissioners. So today's information presentation, I'm going to provide a brief update on the status of the Washington Union Station expansion project. And I'm also going to outline some of the staff comments on the supplemental draft environmental impact statement, which has been prepared by the Federal Railroad Administration and is out for public comment through today. As a reminder, the Commission reviewed concept plans for this project last July, so just a year ago, and supported the FRA's preferred alternative. So just for background, so here you can see Washington Union Station circled here in yellow, located just north of the Capitol building. It is the second busiest station in the Amtrak network. It includes high-speed Acela service as well as the Northeast Regional Rail. VRE and MARC, our regional rail lines, also serve the station along with local and regional bus service, as well as Metro Rail. So the Union Station Redevelopment Corporation, or USRC, oversees the station operations. So here you can see an image of the historic train hall itself. They include maintaining the station as well as supporting the multimodal transportation options, in addition to the retail and amenities within the station. So the site itself, and this is an aerial view looking kind of to the north over the station and the associated site. It includes the historic station itself, which is kind of here in the front, a bus facility, which is located here, as well as a parking garage. All of these highlighted in yellow or are under federal ownership. And in front, of course, is Columbus Plaza, which is maintained by the National Park Service. There are a couple of other owners in the area. Here in the kind of turquoise color, that's the Metro Rail line. Purple is the Hopscotch Bridge or H Street Bridge, which is controlled by DDOT. And then what you see here in red above the train tracks is private air rights, which is controlled by Ackridge. They're a private developer who acquired that from a disposition by the GSA many years ago. And so this area has a complex ownership, but the key things to just highlight here for our newer commissioners is this bus and parking facility, which sits above the tracks today, and then the private air rights, which are undeveloped at this point, but which will be potential mixed use in the future. So the major project components include, most importantly, reconfiguration of the station tracks to accommodate future growth as well as accessibility needs, a new train hall, new bus facilities, as well as parking. Other major components include new concourses for accessibility, rail support spaces, as well as pedestrian and bicycle improvements. You'll recall that the biggest pieces of this project, which were the focus of the Commission's previous discussion, were the parking, the bus facility, and then the new train hall. So the Commission reviewed an old preferred alternative back in 2020. This is what I'm showing you here on the screen. This included a new train hall here in blue, and then a new bus facility and a parking garage stacked above the tracks here. Very similar location to where they are today. These were, basically in the same footprint or very close to the same footprint of today. So during that 2020 review, the Commission supported the overall goals of the project, but expressed some significant concerns, particularly requesting that the applicant reduce the amount of parking. And they also found that that configuration with the parking structure and the bus facility sitting above the tracks really didn't provide a good quality urban design experience. And the commission asked that FRA work with and coordinate further with the district and the private air rights owner to create a better, planning approach to that portion of the project. So given all those comments back in 2020, FRA significantly revised the project design. And just for those who were not present in July of 2022, I'm going to walk you through the last and the revised layout, which the commission did support last year. And that's what's here on the screen. This is a rendering of the 2022 concept. Again, you can see the historic station here on the foreground. The FRA revised that old concept to give us what you see here today, which includes, again, major changes, moving the parking program underground, reducing the parking program significantly. The new east-west train hall is still proposed here. It's been better integrated with the bus facility. And really the big move is by moving the parking and reconfiguring the bus facility, this area above the tracks is now available for future air rights, which could be developed in the future. And so what you see here ghosted in this kind of light blue is those future air rights. This is kind of in the area that's controlled by Acridge. This is in the area of the current parking garage. But again, this is all freed up based upon the revised concept which the commission supported. And so just a few details on that. Again, this is what the commission supported. The parking has been moved underground under the tracks. Again, this eliminates that large parking structure. I'll note that the parking count has been reduced further. It was originally 1,600 in 2020. It had been reduced around 600 to 800 last year. It is now down to 400 to 500 spaces and one level underneath the track. So again, a positive improvement. Because of that movement underground, there will still need to be several ramps to access the parking. These are just a few locations that have been identified. These help distribute the access points, but also help minimize traffic in some of the residential areas, really to direct them towards the more commercial streets like North Capitol. And so just a few plans of the overall concept. This is at the concourse level. Still proposed as the new H Street concourse at the north end of the site. This will provide a new access point. Here's just a rendering of that. Again, this is intended to supplement the historic station access. So the historic station will still be that primary entry point, but this will provide also access from NOMA as well as the Capitol Hill neighborhoods. And then moving up to the rail, again, the tracks are going to be reconfigured. This is not really changed in any of the iterations, but this is to help support, the future train growth, travel growth, as well as create platforms that are actually accessible. Today, they are not. And then moving up again to another layer, and all these components are essentially stacked on top of each other. This is the new bus facility, which has been configured and integrated into the train hall. This will accommodate about 39 bus slips with 14 or 15 overflow slips on another level, which I'll show you, with access from H Street. And so again, this was a point of discussion with both the bus operators as well as the district and transportation officials to create an access and a facility that would actually work for everybody. This is really serving kind of the inner city and regional bus. Local bus service will still be provided through stops around the site as it is today. So here's just a rendering of the bus facility. Again, it's enclosed. You'll be able to walk right off your bus into the new train hall and then either catch your train or go to another mode of travel depending on your destination. And then this is just a rendering of the train hall. These are all conceptual. The designs still need to be further developed, but these are kind of giving you a sense of the space and how the different modes of transportation are connecting. And then moving up one more level, this is the pickup and drop off, which is at the top. And I will just show you a rendering of that. And then just at the top of the tracks, and this is kind of what I would call the deck over the tracks and all the kind of components I just described, there will be a new central open space with skylights to support the concourses below. As I mentioned, what's shown here in kind of a pink color are future building footprints. This is the air rights area that I've mentioned previously. The future design and development of that is to be determined. And so additional coordination is going to be required between FRA, USRC, and Anchorage to help coordinate all of these components. And then here's just a rendering of that again, looking down that central space towards the new pickup and drop off area. Again, just massing in here what the air rights development could look like. So that's just a summary of the project design. Again, that's consistent with what the commission saw last year. And so just in terms of where this project is, since the commission's last review, the FRA restarted the NEPA process and prepared a supplemental draft impact statement. This is part of the NEPA process. The supplemental draft evaluated the impacts of this new alternative since it was created after the draft EIS was actually released. So they had to go back and create and analyze this new preferred alternative. So as part of that process, staff has prepared some initial comments on the supplemental draft EIS, which we will be sending to the FRA. So in terms of overall comments, we believe the supplemental draft is thorough. It is consistent with the concept the commission reviewed and supported in July of last year. Based upon our review, there are clear operational benefits from the project, including that increased rail capacity and multimodal access to the station. This is consistent with the project goals. There are also adverse impacts, including increased traffic and impacts to historic and cultural resources. This is not inconsistent with some of the other alternatives that were analyzed, neither inconsistent nor surprising. And these will require minimization and mitigation. So regarding impacts, we will be working with FRA and consulting parties to prepare a programmatic agreement to address adverse impacts on historic properties, particularly the Washington Union Station and the Washington Union Station site. This is pursuant to the Section 106 process. And so we are in the process of working with FRA and other signatories to draft that document. Regarding traffic impacts, we do recommend in our comments that the applicant continue to work with DDOT. And we also recommend they continue to work with the bus operators who have been an integral part of the process over the last few years. Also, prior to the commission's next review, we do recommend the applicant provide a better sense of who's going to be responsible for the various components of the project, as well as the mitigation measures developed both through the NEPA and Section 106 process. This is consistent with the previous commission request last July, really to ensure that the project is designed and implemented in a cohesive and coherent way. And then finally, our last comment is we do request a list of any comments that were received through the supplemental draft EIS process, as well as FRA responses, so that we can be aware of any outstanding issues prior to the next submission to this commission. So just to wrap things up, we will be providing these comments to FRA and as part of the NEPA process, and we'll be continuing to work with them on the Section 106 programmatic agreement. Following this public comment period, FRA has said they will be working to prepare the final EIS and the record of decision. That is anticipated over the next 6 months or so. And then we do expect the project to return to the commission for preliminary review at some point, likely over the next 6 months or so, though the timing of that has not yet been set. And that concludes my summary. Happy to answer any questions you might have about the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. I'm sorry, Mr. Matthew, Mr. Fliss. Appreciate your thorough presentation. And this was an information presentation, so it does not require a motion. So we'll begin though. Does the commission have any questions for Mr. Fliss on his presentation?
Wait, Madam Chair, I had a question.
Yes.
So going back quite a ways, I remember one of the outstanding pieces that we always knew we'd eventually need to come back to is the air rights, the way that they're kind of meted out right now. So the plans previously had always contemplated that there were a few tweaks that were going to need to be made between FRA and Anchorage to make this all happen. But I don't think that I've asked the question with these new concept designs that we all seem to like much more. What is, because you mentioned the footprint and the future development, as far as the actual Union Station project, does FRA control everything that it needs to control air rights wise in order to fit this into the current box?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So it's our understanding that there are portions that will need to be swapped at a minimum. I'm not sure exactly where those footprints are, but there are, skylights and the head house that I think are on Anchorage land. So there's going to have to be some reconciliation of that property. I know this question has come up. It came up recently at a consulting parties meeting. So FRA is aware of that. They are still discussing, the approach. So I can't really speak to how that will be resolved, but I know they're looking at that issue. So.
Underlying that question is just that I hope that as things look like they're finally kind of on track and that we have these great new designs, at least for the FRA side of it, I want to make sure that it's not going to be held up in red tape for 3 years because Anchorage needs to give back 50 square feet or something like that. So I'm glad to hear that that's in the mix of what people are thinking about and talking about still.
Thank you, Commissioner Cash. I echo your concerns on that same issue. Are there other questions for Mr. Fliss? Hearing none, then we'll run around the table and Vice Chair Hewlett, you are first.
Okay. First of all, thank you for the presentation and thank you for going over some of the prior history that some of us newbies weren't aware of. And the air rights, all of that's pretty exciting. And as much as I love Union Station, it's this new plan, expansion plan seems great. I know you're going to have more detailed presentations later. And I'm particularly thankful and glad for the increased accessibility, particularly to the platforms and whatnot. That's so important in this day and age. But it really, really looks good. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hewlett. Commissioner Green.
Thank you very much. No, much needed and looking forward to it. Thank you. No questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Green. Commissioner Wright.
I yield my time to the next commissioner. We've seen this at least 3 times already, right, Matt? At least, and I'm sure
yes.
I opined at length.
Going back to 2017.
Yeah. Okay. So wow. I'll shut up.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Dixon.
I'm okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cash.
So I'll just be brief. So I want to say, since the last time we saw these presentations, the one comment that the only negative thing I've heard kind of amongst people that watch this stuff, and I know that we're only at concept, but now that we're moving into actual design, right. I do want to throw out there for the record, I hear a lot of complaints that none of these renderings have any seating whatsoever in it. And I know that this is the inside of a building, but we are the Capital Planning Commission. And if we saw a giant plaza that had absolutely no seating or anything, we'd probably say something about it. So I just want to kind of put that on record that I think as the plans continue to move forward and those details are started to put into the presentations, I think that everyone can avoid some problems if we start thinking about those issues the next time this comes to us and we have these more detailed renderings. Because I think that seating in a giant train station right now is a problem at Union Station. And this is beautiful, but not a single rendering showed anywhere to sit. So I just hope that the commission keeps that in mind as we engage in the next steps going forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Cash. Commissioner Giacchetti.
No comments here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Kozar.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Want to associate myself with the comments of Commissioner Cass specifically related to the air rights development. It's really important that that's done in a cohesive way. So we're really thinking about economic development alongside public and civic spaces. So I think that's really important, and that's something that we'll be looking at through the Section 106 process and reinforcing through that. process.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Cozart. Commissioner McMahon.
Appreciate the presentation and maybe the shortest presentation discussion we've had on Union Station during my time here. It's a very good presentation. I have no other comments.
Thank you, Commissioner McMahon. Commissioner Stidham.
Thank you for the presentation. This has been a long time coming, so good to see it to get to this point. No comments from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stidham. Commissioner Argo.
I appreciate all the comments. I'll associate myself with one particular one. I think it was Commissioner Cash talking about showing the seating, if I added the hours of my life that I have stood waiting for a train in Union Station, I appreciate that more than you know. Let's talk about where people sit when they're waiting for a train, among other things. Other than that, and which is really a minor issue, I enjoyed the presentation. I appreciate it. Just love seeing what the possibilities are here for an iconic place.
Thank you, Commissioner Argo, and I'll just start right there. It is an iconic place, and again, for as a small child traveling from Iowa, and then as an adult traveling to DC, and then as a married woman with children coming to DC into Union Station, it is iconic. It's a national icon. And while I'm new to this, and as the vice chair pointed out, there's been a lot of catching up to do to get through a lot of this past information on the Union Station project. I just want to say thank you to you, Mr. Fliss, for the presentation, but also for all the tremendous work and research and effort that's gone into this project. And I'm very eager, as I said, to continue to see the collaborative work with FRA and the proponents, of this project and the layout. So a lot of work has been done. We're grateful to you for that and your team. And we're also looking forward to continued collaboration with other partners in the community and with the FRA, and looking forward to the next presentation. So are there any further comments or questions regarding this information presentation on Union Station? Well, hearing none, this concludes our agenda. I want to thank you again, Mr. Fliss, for that presentation. And our next commission meeting is going to be Thursday, September 7th, 2023 at 1 p.m. And we have a month off. So everyone enjoy your month of August. And if there is no further business, this session stands adjourned. Thank you all.